welcome everyone to today's session, Getting Started with ServiceNow's in-platform process mining. I do have to throw this slide up here. This is the slide that says everything I say and do here today cannot be held against me in the court of law. It is also the slide that says, hey, as part of this session, we may make some forward-looking statements about things that are potentially coming in the product. You should take those as such forward-looking statements and make no decisions based on them whatsoever, because they are always subject to change. I'm assuming you've had time to read the fine print here. Today's session is part of the Live on ServiceNow series. So it's a curated event series to connect you with ServiceNow experts and peers that can help you deploy your projects and achieve value faster on the platform. Obviously, we hope you get something out of this session and see them as something that you want more of. So what we're going to do is we've posted the link in the chat so you can check out the upcoming events. It's also a place where, this is going to be recorded, so you can go share the recording link with your friends and colleagues as well. A couple of housekeeping items. One, please stay on mute. Not that we don't want to hear from you, but we prefer to hear from you in the Q&A. So as we go through here, you're going to have some questions, I would imagine. Please post those questions in the Q&A, and then at the end of the session, I'll go back and I'll go through the questions and answers and pick, assuming we have time, to pick as many as I possibly can to answer at that point. Just so you know that this session is going to be recorded and it's going to be shared on the ServiceNow community forum after the session. So if that's a no-no for you, you've been warned. And then after the session ends, you're going to be prompted to fill out a short survey. Obviously, we always like your feedback. We're looking to make these sessions as valuable as possible for you. So any input you provide is certainly considered and helpful in doing so. A quick introduction of myself. So my name is Dane Grady. I've been in the ServiceNow ecosystem now for about 6 years. The first 4 of those years I spent primarily focused on the Now Intelligence solutions. So things like performance analytics, predictive intelligence, and the virtual agent were all things I spent a lot of time with our customers on, helping them use those solutions to get more value out of the rich set of data that is flowing through the platform. Prior to taking this current role, I spent a year on the Creative Workflows team, helping our customers understand how they can use App Engine Studio and deploy low-code applications inside of their organizations. And now my current role is Outbound Product Manager for our in-platform process mining solution that you're going to learn all about here today, called Process Optimization. So what we'll do, so a little bit of a why and what of in-platform process mining. Then we'll talk about the process for optimizing a process. So if you happen to be playing a drinking game based on the number of times in which I say process during this session, you might not make it to happy hour today. Then we'll dive into a demo of both the end user experience, so how people use process optimization and the Analyst Workbench to identify inefficiencies and improvement opportunities within their workflows. And then we'll transition over to how easy it is to get started creating your first process optimization project. It's a couple of clicks and you'll have visibility into your process like you've never had before. We'll talk a little bit about what you should do next once you get excited about what you see here today. And then we're going to share a number of different resources. They're going to be posted in the chat. So you can kind of learn up on your own after the session, and then obviously we'll address your questions. That's what we're going to cover in the next 40 to 45 minutes or so. Before we get started, though, I did want to throw a quick poll question up here. Everybody loves these poll questions. And the question today is kind of, what is your experience with process mining? It's been around for a little while, but as I'm working with more and more customers, it tends to be something new for many of you. So poll question, what's your experience? Have you never heard of it, but it sounds super awesome? Are you aware of the concept? Have you already started to evaluate solutions? Or maybe you're kind of a little bit more mature and you've implemented or have some experience using a process mining solution. So give you a second to kind of share your experiences. And we'll kind of get a sense of where everybody is. This is interesting. Gotcha. So we've got quite a few of you responded. We're almost at 100% response rate, which you never really get in a kind of a poll question scenario. I'll give you 10 more seconds if you want to respond, but this is interesting. We've got a wide range here today. So I think the content that we put together is gonna fit perfectly for the wide range of experience that we have on the line here today. So you should be seeing the results. It looks like we've got a set of you, about a third of you that have never heard of it. About half of you are aware of it, and then the rest of you are kind of in the boat where you've actually seen and touched a few solutions. So a nice mix on the line here today. I think I need to click that, and I'm going to stop sharing. All right, let's move on to the next piece. So I always like to start these sessions with a quote, and I picked this quote because I think it aligns to both the reason that we're here as well as the solution that we're talking about. Do the best you can until you know better. And then when you know better, do better. And again, aligns to this session. I mean, you all have come here to learn a little bit something and maybe get a little bit better and take those learnings back to the organization and help the entire organization get better. But it also aligns to the solution, our process optimization solution, which is our in-platform process mining that helps automate the process of X-raying your workflows so you can start letting the relevant stakeholders or everyone involved in the process help them understand where and how they can be doing better as it pertains to that given workflow. So with everything we do, there's a designed and desired path in our minds on how it should work and how things should play out. And when you design things, you design for both efficiency as well as completeness to provide the best experience possible for everyone. So for example, if we look at someone, let's say, designing a park like Central Park. I'm from New York, so I spent a lot of time at Central Park over the years. They're going to design it with paths for people to walk, bike, and rollerblade on. They're going to put a couple of ponds in there so you can take a little rowboat out. They're going to put some benches in so you can sit on it and share a story with a friend. And then they're going to put a bunch of grassy areas for people to throw down a blanket and play a game of Scrabble on a Saturday afternoon, like my wife and I used to do. So when we design things, we design to provide the optimal experience for as many people as possible. Unfortunately, what we design isn't always what ends up happening. And while this new path and reality may be more efficient for those trying to get from point A to point B, it certainly doesn't have a positive impact on the experience of my wife and I when we're trying to find that nice cozy spot to play a Scrabble game. Same thing plays out with our business processes. They're designed for completeness and efficiency, but the reality is that not all work flowing through the process is taking the design route. And that's going to have a negative impact on the experience that both the end user as well as the people working on the process are having. And identifying what is actually happening within our business processes and then improving them isn't always as easy as that park example that we just had up on the screen there. For most of us, the continual improvement process is very manual, time-consuming, and expensive. It involves pouring through tons of reports, right? Holding these virtual and in-person workshops. Maybe we even hire a third-party consulting agency to come us in and help us. And then we need to get alignment on the path to move forward. So if you think about it, with the speed that many of our organizations are moving today, even when we get through all of this, so much time has passed that the optimal path forward has likely already changed. The good news is with process optimization or in-platform process mining, the opportunity is now there for us to do better. In a few clicks, we're going to be able to expose to the relevant stakeholders the reality of their given workflows so they can start improving immediately. And you're going to see those few clicks today. So that's the beauty of this, is the solution is so straightforward that it just takes a couple of clicks to get it going and up and running. Now, some of you might be saying to yourself, you know what? We've already got a bunch of reports and dashboards that are helping us identify opportunities. How is this different? Well, if you think about it, traditional analytics helps us answer the what questions. Things like, how many tickets did we work? Which types of tickets were those? How long did it take to close those tickets? And how did we perform against our targets? And ultimately, the most important question, which are we improving our cycle times, right? These are all questions that you're probably answering today with our in-platform analytics engine called Performance Analytics. And these are really important questions to ask and answer. But I've been doing analytics a long time now. One of the things that I have learned, and you've probably experienced this as well, is that information tends to be one of the most addictive things out there, right? You give somebody a little bit and they always want more, right? So you give somebody a dashboard like this and you think you're giving them a ton of visibility, which you are, but then the follow-up questions come. Why are those things trending in that direction? Why is that metric not hitting the targets that we've set for ourselves? And historically, it's been really difficult to answer those follow-up why questions. And that's where process mining comes in. Process mining allows us to start answering a whole bunch of questions that we've been getting over the years, but have struggled to be able to provide the answers for. Things like, where exactly is the process stuck? Or where are we doing any unnecessary rework? Where are we wasting time? Like, which tickets, my favorite one is I call it the finger pointing report. Everybody wants to know who's holding on to the tickets the longest, or if you happen to be a glass half full person, that's the opportunity to improve report. Process mining helps us answer those types of questions. Right? It helps us gives us visibility into whether we're actually conforming to the process principles that we've laid out up front. And in some cases, it helps us answer kind of questions around which assignment group or which vendor is helping us run faster and slower. There's a whole set of questions that process mining is going to help us answer that we've struggled to answer in the past. It helps us get to what I like to call is the why behind the KPIs that are on the screen. And we'll look at this in a live demonstration in just a second. So how does this work? How are we doing this? Well, if you think about it, every record on the platform leaves an audit trail behind every time it gets changed. It's kind of like Hansel and Gretel leaving little breadcrumbs. So every time a state changes on a record, whether it be an incident or a customer service or HR case, every time that changes, the state, the assignment group, different aspects of it, that information is stored in the audit log. What we're able to do is pull that necessary or the relevant information out of that audit log and then pass it off to our mining engine to start doing some heavy duty crunching of that information and then visualize it in a way that we've just not seen our processes in the past. Then once on top of that mining exercise, we add in a whole bunch of smarts using other parts of the ServiceNow platform. So we have a findings engine that helps us kind of expose common inefficiencies within our workflows. We have a whole bunch of content packs to help we kind of learn over the years what are some of the common inefficiencies that people find within their workflows. We've packaged those up into content packs to help jumpstart you on your process mining journey, and you'll see some of that output in the demonstration. And then we've also done things like integrate it with performance analytics. So right from a performance analytics dashboard, if you see a spike or something strange in the data, you can drill down and right from the analytics hub, launch a process mining exercise for just that subset of the data within that KPI. We've integrated it with continual improvement management. So as you start finding things you can start that you want to improve upon, you can create an improvement initiative right from the Analyst Workbench, as well as some of the other machine learning or predictive intelligence capabilities that are baked right into it, things like clustering analysis to help you see stuff in the unstructured data. So we've packaged together a whole bunch of capabilities on the platform into the solution, and I think you're going to be pretty excited when you see the product in action in a second. Last thing before we get to the demo, I think it's really important to call out that you've kind of got the ability on the ServiceNow platform to do closed loop process optimization. You have everything you need in one place, which isn't always the case if you start thinking about third-party process mining solutions. If you think about optimizing a process, there's really 4 phases: detect, analyze, improve, and monitor. Right, in the detect phase, you really what you're looking for is you're trying to identify things that are going bump in the night, something that's not right with the process. And there's some capabilities in the platform you're probably already using today to help you do that. Things like notifications, specifically on SLAs perhaps, or performance analytics and the targets and thresholds that you set, or maybe you're using Spotlight to identify something that's out of whack within your process. And then you move into the analyze phase, which is really where process optimization dominates. And it's going to give you things like a visualized process map, things like bottleneck and root cause and variation analysis. And then you've got an integration with automation discovery for those of you using ITSM to help you identify where automation opportunities might exist within the data that you mine. And once you find those opportunities to improve, the rest of the platform is there to help you. kind of improve. Things like, let's say you identify some sort of issue with the intake for a certain type of piece of work inside of the platform. Well, you can always use the virtual agent to improve that intake experience. Maybe you identify a ping pong scenario inside of the workflow using process optimization. Well, you've got predictive intelligence to potentially help you automate that triage process. Maybe you find an area where a lot of manual work is going on inside of your process, and then you can start using things like robotic process automation on the platform to automate some of that manual work. Maybe you simply identify an inefficiency that's not something that you want or can automate. Maybe it's just a human change. And you set up a coaching loop to help better educate the humans involved in the process to drive some efficiencies. So many different ways to improve on the platform. What process optimization is going to help you do is identify and prioritize where you'll have the biggest impact. And then the last piece, the last phase, is the monitor stage, right? So once you've identified these opportunities to improve and then you act upon those, you want to make sure that you're monitoring them to make sure that the actions that you took are actually making the impact. And that's where things like continual improvement management, performance analytics, and benchmarks come in. So all 4 phases of this continual improvement flow, if you will, you have the ability to do all of those things on a single platform with ServiceNow, which is a really powerful place to be. All right, let's transition over to a live demo of the solution. So I'm going to come over here. Of course, I talked too long, so it's logged me out. I'm going to log myself back in. And I think that where I want to start is we'll come over here and just start on a dashboard, just so you can see this integration between performance analytics and process optimization. So as I mentioned earlier, many of you probably have a dashboard like this in which you're looking. In this case, we're looking at the incident process. And let's say I potentially see a spike somewhere here, and I'm going to look at my resolved incidents. And then right here from the Analytics Hub, I have this option, if you've got process optimization enabled, to go directly to process optimization. What that's going to do is it's going to start the mining process and get me to a place where I'm looking at just that subset of data, that spike, those 2,800 resolved incidents on that day, and allow me to start analyzing and looking at potentially what's going on with that subset of data and that workflow. Now, for purposes of today's demonstration, I'm gonna start from scratch. And this is the second way that you can get to process optimization. If you came over here to your left-hand nav, you can look for process optimization, and you'll go to the Analyst Workbench, and that's where I am here. And I've got a number of different projects that I've mined so far, but we're going to use this incident process optimization project for today's demonstration. And once I drill into this, you'll see I land on a summary and insights page. And this summary and insights page gives me a ton of information about the data that I mined and kind of the process that I may be responsible for. So in this case, again, we're focused on incident. You'll see here across the top, I've got some information about the 22,500 records that we mined. Those 22,500 incidents, they took 3,200 unique routes to get to closure. Now that's a little bit crazy, right? And you're going to see that visually in a second. And then those incidents, it took them about an average 27 days to reach closure. And then I've got my standard deviation, my median duration, and then I've got my total records in the model. So just the discrepancy here between the 22,500 and 900, or 22,900, is these are the records that I tried to mine. About 400 of them didn't have audit logs, so we only actually mined these 22,500. Then I move down the screen. What I've got here is I've got some key performance indicators related to the process. As I mentioned earlier, we provide content packs that are going to get you these indicators on this landing page. But if you want to customize this for your specific processes or things that you're focused on, you have the ability to do so. For the incident process, obviously, we have our average time to resolved incidents, or our MTTR, which is a key metric that we're focused on, as well as our percent of incidents resolved by the first assigned group, which happens to be a leading indicator for our MTTR. Then as I move down the screen, I get to this improvement opportunities sections. And these are what are called finding cards. And I like to compare these to a little bit to like hide and seek when I was growing up, right? When you were playing hide and seek as a kid, when you were growing up, you knew like the 3 to 5 best places to hide. And when your friends would come over, you know that they would try to hide in those places, which gave you an advantage when looking for those folks when you were playing. These finding cards act the same way. we know from a ServiceNow perspective, a number of the different common inefficiencies that exist within workflows. And what we've done is we've packaged those inefficiencies up into finding cards. So when you run a mining, you'll see things like, hey, we immediately bucket records that take longer than 7 days to go from resolve to close. And of those 22,000 that I mined here, about 65% of them landed in that bucket. Or let's say multi-hop issues. Those things like incidents going through 2 or more reassignments. I can see here that 6% of the records that I mined went through 2 or more reassignments. Their average time impact of those changes were 6 days, and total impact for those 1,300 records, there's 20 years of total impact time buried in that potential inefficiency that I can look and analyze and try to mine out. So these cards, we provide them out of the box. They kind of shine a light where the opportunities exist. And then you have the ability, of course, as customers to tweak them to meet your specific needs, or you probably have hypotheses about your processes that you're running on the platform, and you can create your own finding cards to help you get a jump start on the analysis, or, and on the second half of it is to help you understand whether you're actually conforming to the processes the way that you've set them up. As I move down the screen here, I get even more information. We get to our variation analysis section, and what this is going to show me is give me some analysis of the 3,200 different routes that these incidents or records have taken. So this is the complete path that these have taken. And I can start looking at things like, hey, show me the most common path. So the one with the most records that have went through it. Or you know what? Show me the ones with the longest average duration, or if you're easily scared, this is where you cover your eyes. Show me the ones with the most steps. And this is going to seem crazy, but you're going to have examples like this inside of your organization. So it helps you understand the complete paths that things are taking. And then the last piece of analysis on this page is the bottleneck analysis. And what this helps me understand, while the variation analysis looks at the entire route that something takes, this looks at the individual transitions or hops within it and helps me do some analysis there. So in this case, we've analyzed the states as well as the assignment groups. So I can start doing things like, show me the assignment group handoffs that maybe are taking a long time. So I can look at the assignment group handoffs and the average duration. And then at any point in time, when I find something interesting from a bottleneck or variance perspective, I can click on this and jump me right into the Analyst Workbench for just that subset of records. So a tremendous amount of power and insight right here on this initial page within Process Optimization to help get you started. Now we'll transition over to the Analyst Workbench, which is the piece that kind of gets everybody, jumps off the screen at you and kind of something you just haven't, most of us have not seen before. So I'm going to walk you through how the Analyst Workbench helps us identify inefficiencies and some of the capabilities inside of here. So first thing, I'm going to open up my model statistics here, and this is going to give us that same information that you saw at the top of the screen. So my total records that we're looking at right now, the total routes they've taken, their average duration, their standard deviation, and median duration. And then, so if you look at this right now, you're probably saying to yourself, Dan, you've been telling us that there's 3,200 unique routes here, but that map doesn't look like it's showing us 3,200 unique routes. And that's because by default, what we try to do is we isolate it down to the top 20%, right, to help you focus in on where the largest opportunities might be from a volume perspective. But of course, you could expand this out, and I'll do this, but you're going to see it can get really messy really quick. So if I expand it out to show me the entire map of what's going on, or 80% in this case, you can see there's a lot of variability in there. This is the type of thing that gets your governance and risk and compliance people really, really scared when they start seeing all the unique paths that something could be taking, because every unique path is an opportunity for something to go wrong. So I'm just going to bring it back to the top 20% here and focus it in so we can do a little bit more analysis. And I'll zoom in a little bit more. You'll notice on the map itself, I've got the individual hops that things are taking and paths that things are taking. So in this case here, we're looking at our states, but I also do have assignment group, caused by change, and problem on this map. And the first thing we can do is you're going to be looking for like the largest or the thickest lines. Those are the ones with the highest volumes. And the little numbers here are actually showing me, right, the highest, or in this case, total occurrences. That's my primary metric. But I can change this and I can say, maybe I want to look at my unique occurrences, or maybe I want to look at two things, the volume as well as the velocity in which things are moving through. So I'm going to add average duration as a secondary metric on this map. So I can start seeing for each one of the transitions, the volume as well as the duration. Now, when customers ask, where do you get started? There's a lot here. I usually say, you know what? I always like to look for these arrows that are going up in the process. And I think back to when I used to ski a little bit more. These maps kind of remind me of ski trail maps. If I think back, anytime I had to go back up the mountain, typically that was a bad experience for me and a learning opportunity or a way that, it's not the most efficient way to get down the mountain when you're going back up. So I'm always looking for lines that are going back up. And I've got one of those here in which I'm looking at records or tickets that went from awaiting caller info to in progress. And I can see anytime I click on one of those that the total occurrences. So I got about 2,400 total occurrences of a record going from awaiting caller info to in progress, about 1,800 unique occurrences, which tells me there's about 500 that went back and forth or took this trip more than once. And at least one of those took that trip more than 6 times. So then I see here my total duration. I got 11 years of total time built into these 2,400 total occurrences of back and forth or 1,800 unique occurrences. That's a lot of productivity that if I could just claim a little bit of that productivity back, we'd have a much more efficient process. I can also, I'm looking at the analysis that way, but I also have this bottleneck analysis here where I can come down and look at the individual hops right on the map. And I can see things like in progress to awaiting caller info and awaiting caller info to in progress, just like we did on the map. But if I combine both of those, I can see that my total duration there is 22 years. So there's 22 years worth of opportunity or inefficiency, if you will, baked into that in progress to awaiting caller info back to in progress hop. So let's maybe isolate that. And I can do that with this transitions filter. And I can come in here and say, hey, you know what? I want to just focus in on things that are going from a waiting caller through that awaiting caller info node. Obviously, we can make this a much more complex transition filter and add a few more activities here. We're just going to keep it simple for now and hit apply. And now I can look at just the tickets that are going through that piece. And I can see that of my 22,000, about a third of them, 7,100, are actually going through that awaiting caller info. We'll come back to the map in a second, but I want to introduce you now to the section on the left-hand side of the screen, which is my breakdowns. Breakdowns help me both filter the data, but also give me some ability to get some insights about the data that we're looking at here. And you can configure up to 10 breakdowns per process model. So I can start looking at things like channel and assignment group and different services, categories, and priorities here. I'm going to come back to channel. And I can see on this filtering, I can see that I've got the volume as well as the average duration, the routes here. And I can start looking at the analysis in different ways if I want to. Now, immediately, I can see self-service has the largest percentage of records, almost half of those, actually more than half of those records moving through this awaiting caller info piece are self-service. And their average duration is about 1 week. So I might want to focus in on those. But if I look at this, the ones that are coming in via email, they've got a whole extra week. They're taking a whole extra week to get resolved or closed. Let me just focus in on those and see if I can isolate kind of an area of opportunity and reduce that 2-week piece. And it kind of makes sense if you think about it. Email is a very unstructured intake channel, so that you're probably going to have the need to get some additional information for somebody if the initial intake was via email. So let's just isolate those down so I can use a breakdown to filter down the records, and I can focus in on awaiting caller info here. And then I can start doing things like, hey, do I want to view the records for this? Or maybe I want to view root cause analysis. And what root cause analysis does, it helps me understand what my leading influencers are and gives me some probability analysis of when new tickets would come in via email, where they're likely to end up. So for example, here I can see, hey, the majority of these tickets are categorized as employee portal, and a new ticket coming in is going to be 13, coming in via email and going to awaiting info, is going to be 13 times more likely to go in this employee portal category than any others. So let me just focus in on those and hit apply. And then I've got my integration with root cause analysis, with clustering analysis here. So now that I've isolated these, maybe I want to start looking at the unstructured data inside of those tickets. So things like short descriptions and descriptions or work notes, which are typically very difficult to get any insights out of. We use the clustering on the platform to help us bucket those things and lead us towards some commonality or some opportunities to improve. And I can see here that my biggest clusters are focused on this email support account type of thing. And if I want to, I can come in here and I can get down to the detailed records themselves, and I can immediately see an opportunity to improve. right? All of these are coming in and they look like somebody trying to change their email address on their profile, which is certainly something that we could create a virtual agent conversation for, to automate that process, or that intake process of changing somebody's profile. It's something we could use a catalog item for. Maybe we even have a catalog item for this already, and we just need to market it a little bit better. So just giving you a sense of kind of how you can use the different capabilities inside of the Analyst Workbench to help you identify an improvement opportunity. Now, once you've identified that opportunity, we've got a built-in, we can do a couple of things. One, I can share this with other folks. Two, I may want to compare this analysis with historical analysis or a different type of analysis. You can do side-by-side comparisons of these the analyses that you're doing. Once you do that, you may want to kind of save this, add a note, communicate with somebody else in the organization about what you found. And then lastly, and probably the most important thing, is this pre-built integration with continual improvement management. So once you've identified an improvement opportunity, you want to kind of either create a new initiative or link it to an existing initiative so it doesn't get lost. I find too often in organizations what happens is, somebody's done some really cool analysis, they find something out, they go to lunch and they tell their friend at lunch what they found out, and that's where the insight dies, right? You want to make sure that you're capturing these insights and then tracking them so we actually act upon them moving forward. And this helps you do that by using continual improvement management. Last piece I'll show you here is just this pre-built integration with the automation discovery. So as we've mined this data, we've linked it up with automation discovery to help us kind of look at the mine data and lead us towards some improvement opportunities that exist, or automation opportunities that exist in the organization. So this uses machine learning to say, hey, based on those 22,000 records, you've got 134 automation opportunities, and they line up with 28 of the pre-built virtual agent topics that we provided. And you can start analyzing these down. It looks like we have one that's a hardware troubleshooting issue, gives us some details about that. And if I just wanted to focus in on the process map for those 1,800 records that we've identified as a hardware troubleshooting issue, I can click on this and it will generate the map for me right from here. So just a lot of power packaged up inside of this Analyst Workbench that comes with process optimization. Now, you're all sitting there saying, Dan, or at least 99.9% of you are sitting there saying, Dan, this is amazing. How do we get started? So I want to show you kind of how easy it is to create one of these models really quickly, and just give you some high-level guidance in terms of what you should do. So you're going to come in here and you're going to create a new project. And we'll call this our Getting Started project. And then you can give it a short description, align it to a goal, and you can create templates. Those are things for a different day. But really simply what we're going to do here is we're going to just kind of create this against our incident table, because that's where I have my demo data. But any table that you have audit logs turned on for will show up inside of this list of available tables. And I can preview this and see that I've got 29,000 records. Now, you've got your filter criteria here. The best practice is to run this on closed records. So in order to do that, what we would do is we would say active is false. You might have some additional criteria that you would add. And then a question that also comes is like, how much data should I mine? Is there any limit to the number of data? Like, back in the day with predictive intelligence, there was like a floor. Like you needed to have, like we would say, like best practice would be 10,000 records. That floor doesn't exist here from a process mining perspective. You could mine 3 records if you wanted to mine 3 records. Really, the answer to the question is how much data is, what is a relevant set of data for you to help you understand how your process is currently running. So you don't need to mine 2 years worth of data to see that. You probably only need, let's say, the last 30 days. So you could say closed on the last 30 days or something like that, right? Would be a nice set of data for most organizations. And again, my demo data doesn't match that criteria, so I'm just going to leave it as the closed records. And we'll just submit or save this. So I've set up the subset of data that I want to mine. I can maybe include approvals in the visualization. And then the only other thing that I have to do, absolutely have to do, is I need to add an activity definition. Now, an activity is the things on the records that are changing, things like state, assignment groups. I'm just going to add in state right here and say add initial activity and hit submit. Now you can create more. You could put assignment group. I find best practice, at least when I'm getting started, is to kind of separate it and only have one activity per model just to make it easier to read the map. And then the last piece that we're going to do here is we're going to add a breakdown. So remember you saw those on the left-hand side where I was looking at channel, assignment group, category, priority. I'm just going to add a breakdown of category here, and we can be done. I can click this generate model sample, and that's going to go out there, and it's going to kind of get the data that I need to mine. It's going to just package up that audit data, send it off to the predictive intelligence infrastructure to do the heavy duty lifting or the heavy, the mining of the data. And then it's going to spit that finished model back into the instance. So people often ask about performance impact. Well, we've used the machine learning infrastructure that's available to all of you to kind of make sure that there's no performance impact on the actual instance itself as you're doing the mining and doing the analyzing of the data. This typically takes 2 or 3 minutes to kind of go through. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go, well, there we go. It's moving along more quickly than I thought it was going to take. But as that runs, I'm just going to bring up the question and answers that are here. And this one question says, is this process optimization technology powered through Celonis integration, or is this separate functionality? Note, this is in-platform process mining technology. This is homegrown, built into the platform itself. So it's not dependent on any sort of third-party technology whatsoever. This is our in-platform solution available to customers. And as you just saw, because it's in-platform, the speed of kind of creating that model and configuring that model and then deploying or getting visibility into your processes significantly accelerated, right? Anytime you can do something in-platform, you have a huge advantage in terms of the speed to value. And you just saw that here in a matter of less than 3 minutes. We kind of set up a model, mined the data, and got these finding cards, these insights, and the workbench so I can start mapping it out. That's how easy it is to get started and get going and start mining data of your own on your instance. So I wanted to make sure that you guys all saw that here today, the ease of use of getting going. All right, let's switch back here to the slides. So some key takeaways. One that I was just harping on there is that unprecedented speed to value or speed to insight. You just saw it in action. So you already probably have the data that you need to get started on your platform doing this today. All of you have the rights to turn this on in your subprod environment, and you can mine up to 4,000 records in your subprod environment without licensing the solution. And you just saw what you need to do. You turn on the plugin, great. You turn on the content pack, great. I'll show you what those are in a second. And then you go and you do what I just did. And as long as you've been capturing audit data, which you likely have, because by default, 120 tables on the platform, including instant, problem, change, case, they all capture audit data by default. You can get going and do what I just did on your own data. Second key takeaway is that kind of that closed loop scenario, all in one platform, right? Huge advantage to be able to do the detect, analyze, improve, monitor phase all in one place, instead of having to swivel chair, have your process owners or your line of business managers swivel out to another solution and then come back into a solution to kind of close that loop and monitor these things or their processes over time and continually improve. And then the last takeaway, and I think I've harped on this enough, is you have what you need to get started. Let's get started right away. Start getting better right now. What do you do next? First, this was a great introduction, I hope, for you guys, but there is an on-demand learning course out there called Process Optimizations Essentials. I would hope that you go out there right after this is about a 90-minute course. It'll give you all the information that you need to get started above and beyond what we talked about here today. Then you're going to go activate the plugins. There's, one plugin is the process optimization plugin. That's the main one that you need to activate. And then there's 4 content pack plugins out there, one for ITSM, one for CSM, one for telco, and one for financial services operations. Depending on which solutions you're using, you're going to activate the appropriate content pack to go along with what you want to mine. And like I said, you can do this on your subprod today. And then the last piece here is we host I host a bi-weekly process optimization academy. So every other Friday at 10 a.m. Eastern, get together, we share a topic about process optimization, open it up for questions, and then you can bring any questions you have above and beyond the topic that day. It's kind of like an office hours session. I'm happy to do our best to answer them. Some of them we answer right then and there. Some of them we post to the community page because we need to do a little bit of research. And some of them we'll turn into future Process Optimization Academy sessions. We've done a few of these sessions already. They're recorded and posted out there on the community. So if you want to go back and learn a little bit more or see similar stuff to what we talked about here today, you can go out there and take a peek. In addition to other resources that we have out there, one, there is a community forum specifically focused on process optimization. It doesn't show up in that main forum page. So you need to do a search for process optimization community or process optimization forum, and you'll be able to get there. I mentioned the on-demand training already. There's an FAQ out there on that community site that pretty much acts as an index for all content that we posted publicly. So it's got a lot of questions and answers out there, but there's also links to recordings and trainings and things like that. So check out that FAQ. And I just talked about the Academy. This week's session coming up on Friday is going to be focused on what's new in Tokyo for process optimization. All right. Now, that's the content that I planned to cover today. I'm hoping that you've got a few questions. So if you do have questions on what we covered, if you could post those in the Q&A section now, and I'll answer those best I can here today. So I'm putting those up. I already got to the first one. One of them disappeared. So I got to the first one about kind of, is this technology using a third party or not? No, everything you saw here today lives in the instance. It's homegrown technology. And like I said, you should have access to it. At the first place, it looks like. Okay, so there's a question here. It looks like got it. So the question here is kind of around ease of use. It looks like it's a little bit involved, but I would say, I mean, once you go through the Now Learning training, you'll see it's pretty straightforward to kind of set something up and kind of create your first model. The analysis piece of it, kind of, yes, I would say that map can be a little bit involved for many people. The thing that's important to call out is the fact that this solution is one of my colleagues likes to say a 2 to tango solution, right? You need both a little bit of knowledge of kind of how ServiceNow works, as well as the process knowledge, and to have the best success with the solution, right? Very often a customer will ask me, hey, can you take a look at our map? And I'll look at it. I'll see some common things, but the reality is I don't know, the person who knows the process is going to understand whether that 7-day closure time is what is expected and what you built into the process, or it's kind of out of the norm. So it's one thing that we recommend is that you have both the process as well as ServiceNow people involved when you're doing your analysis and you start standing up a program around this. That's kind of a best practice there as well. And what you'll find, at least what we're finding across customers and here at ServiceNow, is that it's really helping the collaboration across the teams to kind of get them going and say, hey, you know what, maybe we should do this a little better. Maybe we should do this a little bit better. We have some customers who are actually really kind of started to build this into their biweekly and monthly process review process, if you will. The question here, is there any content packs for HR or not? How do I manage this for HR? Great question. Great question. And the answer to that question is, up until San Diego, this solution was focused for ITSM as well as customer service management. In Tokyo, we are introducing it for HR. So it will be available for HR, and there will be content packs for HR as well. Also in Tokyo, the plan is to have it available for App Engine or application that you've created on your own on the platform that are not the out-of-the-box applications. The long-term goal for this is that we make it available to all workflows running on the ServiceNow platform. And obviously, technically, we're ready to do that. We're just working out kind of how we go to market with it for some of the solutions. But today in San Diego, ITSM, San Diego, and before ITSM, CSM in Tokyo, HR, and App Engine. Beyond Tokyo, most other workflows will be available. Good question. Another question coming in. What about ITOM visibility? Like I said, long-term is to kind of have it available for all solutions on the platform. Right now, that's not something that's planned for Tokyo, but we're considering all options, all workflows is kind of the goal. Any other questions, comments, thoughts? I'm just going to go over to the chat here because some people put questions in the chat every now and then. So I'm going to look in here to see if there's any questions in the chat that didn't make it to the Q&A. Good question. Somebody's asking about the installed on a PDI. Unfortunately, no. These are not available on personal. This solution is not available on personal developer instances because it does require the machine learning infrastructure. So what most customers are using is their sub-prod environments to play around with it, or development environments to play around with it. So not available on PDIs, unfortunately. Other question around ITBM tables. That one is a very common ask for ITBM, looking at the process from idea, demand, and project. It is something that is certainly on the roadmap, but not yet available for Tokyo, but it is a high demand option that we're prioritizing. So I would expect you to see it in a future release. So someone's asking about the cost involved. So from a selling point of view, so these currently in San Diego, the solution is packaged or bundled at the ITSM enterprise level, but we are for Tokyo working on some additional flexibility for customers that want to use this outside of the enterprise level. What I would say is just check in with your account team and kind of your ServiceNow folks to kind of get some more details around the flexibility that we're adding in Tokyo for the solution. Question is it available on partner demo instances? I don't know if a partner demo instance is different than a PDI instance. I'm not sure of the specifics on what's available on partner demo instances. So I don't know how to best answer that question. Someone's asked, can we use it with ITSM Pro? So it uses some of the Pro capabilities and infrastructure. So ITSM Pro is I would say a requirement. And you can use it if you have ITSM Pro, you'll be able to use it in a sub-prod, like I was saying, on a subset of instances. But in San Diego, to fully use it, you would need to upgrade to the enterprise level. But I would also say reach out to your account team on that one, because like I said, we've added some flexibility for Pro customers in Tokyo. It's good. Somebody here knows, my friend Carlene, it's nice to see you. I'm glad you showed up. And thank you for answering that question. Somebody is kind of sharing that most partner demo instances allow store apps and any machine learning apps to be installed. So I appreciate you helping out on that one. Is there any conflict with process optimization and virtual agent? No, I would say no conflict whatsoever. It is actually a complementary solution, right? As I tried to show in the demonstration, process optimization will help identify potential future virtual agent conversations, or the ones that will make the biggest impact for you to roll out. So no conflict. Any additional questions, last minute questions that you might have? Things you want to talk about? Just going to jump over here. Did I have? Oh, there's a thank you slide. And then there's a ServiceNow slide. So I think those are the last slides that we have. No, so the question is this just for ITSM? No, this is for both ITSM and CSM. And as I mentioned, in Tokyo, we're adding HR and the ability to apply it to App Engine. Any other questions, comments, thoughts? Nope. If you think of anything after the session is over, like I said, check out that community forum. I monitor it daily. I'll try to answer any additional questions you have there. Really appreciate you spending the time. I hope you got what you need to get started and get excited as I am about the solution. It's, like I said, I've been in the ecosystem for several years now, and this is one of the more exciting things I've seen us come to market, and customers are sharing that excitement whenever we show it to them. Slides available. I'm going to leave that to, I don't know the answer to that. I would imagine yes. But a lot of what, if they're not, if you go to the link and the recording is when the recording is posted and you don't see the slides, go back to the community site that I mentioned, the forum. A lot of these slides that were used here today are available as part of the Performance Analytics Academy sessions that we're posting up there. So you'll be able to get slides that way. The recording, my understanding, will be available in a couple of days. Yes. All right. Anyone else? If not, like I said, appreciate the time here today, and we'll call it a day. Thank you all for joining. Now I'll move to the thank you slide.